Hey now everybody, welcome to Englit.org. This is Dr. Island, and today we are discussing the Distance Education English 101 course. Whether you are taking this as a 5-unit course or a 4-unit course, this is the main structure of the 4 units that make up the bulk of the 5-unit course and make up the entirety of the 4-unit course. If you're taking the on-campus course, there are some different details, and you need to be looking at a different video and looking at some different information. As a distance ed course, this material will be on Canvas in terms of the assignments and such that you'll be following, but a lot of it, of course, is also going to be based on Englit.org, and so you'll want to bookmark Englit.org. Or at least your course, which begins here in the Distance Education section under Distance Education English 101. And on there, when you see the feet, you know you're in the right place. You will find your syllabus. It's the course description, the course calendar, and the grading policy essentially are your syllabus that you can use if you want a downloadable, solid version of that. And likewise, of course, you have other aspects here that would be useful. A discussion of the literary terms is here. For English 101, we're covering many of these elements here. And then for other aspects of it, such as what a paper looks like, how to access resources, what formatting for both APA and MLA look like, all of which we'll cover during the course of the class. This is on this section here, which is the paper format and test instruction. If you're looking for samples of material, you want to look at the archive of tests and papers, in which I have most of the things that you'll be doing. I have examples here. There are a few of the newer elements of the new version of this class that I don't have on here, but definitely most of what you have, what you're going to have to do is replicated here. And then finally, there's the chat room and archive. On Wednesday evenings between 7 and 9, I'll be holding a live chat. You go here and you follow these instructions and use this code here for English 101, and you'll get into a chat room in which you can discuss elements of the class, asking questions, discussing how to develop your papers, and think of it as a live office hour. And sometimes if there are enough people, it turns into sort of a class session in which we throw ideas around and develop our papers. When you get to the Canvas site, it's going to look very much like this. In fact, it's going to look exactly like this. And the first part is the getting started. You're going to have a course description, course calendar, and course grading policy and assessment. If that looks familiar, that's because it is exactly these 3 items here. Each week is going to be a selection of material that you will be reading and accessing in order to create works for me. This essentially is a skills class, and what that means is that you have to be able to demonstrate that you can write at a college level in order to pass the course. Likewise, you have to be able to apply certain literary terms in order to pass the course. And then finally, you have to be able to apply research, valid college-level research in a research paper in order to pass the class. Those 3 elements are what make this class transfer to Cal State, UC, private universities, etc. And this is the same all across the board, and frankly all across the state. The difference between this course and any course previous to fall of 2018 is an additional emphasis on non-literature, non-fiction elements, and we've incorporated more of the APA style and research and that kind of stuff. So you're going to get a wide range of styles and methods for doing research at the college level, whether you take another English class or whether you're taking a history class or a sociology class or whatever that is. Excuse me. For the calendar itself, what you have is these various sections. One part is going to be readings, and those readings are going to be linked back to Englit.org, and you're going to be getting formatting and discussions of, again, a formatting of what a paper looks like, the content that I'm looking for, etc. But also elements discussing how literature works. And so, for example, we discuss plot, or we discuss character, etc., etc. It's going to give you some of the terminology that we expect you to use in your literary and other analyses. Likewise, on the for each of these weeks, you're going to have a primary source. Now, if you're taking a history class and they ask you to do a research on Paul Paul Revere, and you're looking for a primary source, what you're looking for is something written by Paul Revere. Anything written about Paul Revere, movies about Paul Revere, documents about Paul Revere, things like that, those are all called secondary sources. In literature analysis, it's different. The primary source is the work that is under discussion. And everything else, whether it's written by that author or not, is a secondary source. So if I tell you to read this discussion, this essay by Mr. Wong, in which he explains how a particular style within a movie has affected the way that people think, this is the primary source here. And then anything about him, anything about the Karate Kid, anything about how people find learning a difficult task to be rather boring and tedious and often hard to do, those would all be secondary sources. There is going to be a primary source for most weeks. If there's not, there's usually because you're working on something that's more complex. Maybe I gave you a longer primary source to work with, or you have some other thing going on. One of the other elements, of course, is the essays that you send in to me. There's two kinds. The shorter kind is called a response. Each week that you have a reading, there will be a response prompt. And so, for example, after you read this, you could write a response. And a response is a 3-paragraph essay, introduction, body, paragraph, conclusion, in which you analyze, according to the instructions that I give you, in which you analyze the work that you read within the construct in which I gave you. In most cases, in fact, in all cases, you'll be quoting at least from the primary source and sometimes from secondary sources as well. And of course, in the course of the class, we will discuss what an essay looks like and what goes in an introduction and what doesn't, what goes in a body paragraph and what doesn't, and the like. During the course of the semester, you will want to finish and get accepted 5 responses, and you have multiple opportunities to get responses done during the course of this class, way more than 5. The deal is you get one shot at revision, so you're gonna submit it. I'm gonna look at it, and if it's great, I'm gonna say great, and it's gonna say completed, and that one's good to go. If it says incomplete, you're gonna get a discussion from me through Canvas as to what was wrong with it and what you need to fix, and then you get one shot to fix it in 1 week. If you either fail to do the revision within that week, or you fail to make enough changes to make it acceptable, that work will remain incomplete, and then you have other opportunities to get your 5 by the end of the semester. That's how you get an A in participation. The other types of works you're going to be doing for me are a bit longer, and these are a series of essays, longer essays, in which you will discuss various things from a personal narrative, which you would do in this particular one here, in which you explain why you love or hate reading, or something more literary when you get down to your research paper on one of the literature works that I provide for you during the course of the semester. If you may have noticed, or you should have noticed, there is no book required for this class, and that's because every time I offer you a primary source, whether it's an essay or a story or something like this, I am giving you that work through the internet, through verified, viable sources, either through something like archive.org or through the Gutenberg Project, or from the author's own website, in which these have been made available, usually because they are so old that nobody's making money off of them anyway, so they become something called public domain. This allows you to get access to some of the great works of literature without having to buy a book. The other stuff that you need in terms of what an essay looks like and how to do literary analysis, that's all on my website, and of course I have you do the readings for that as well. During the course of the semester, you're going to see that there are things, if it has this little page with the pencil on there, that is something that you're actually writing. You're writing something and submitting it for me. So you have note cards, you have a couple of essays, and you have your outline, all of which are part of the core elements of this English 101 class. For those of you who are in the 4-unit class and who are not taking the enhanced 101S, this is your class, essentially, and it's here. If you have other things that you're looking for, maybe you're struggling a little bit with grammar, you go back to this website here, and when you go to the paper format and test instruction, you go down to the bottom. I have a grammar website that helps you with things like spelling, fragments, and comma splices, and I will use these phrases in my discussion of what's working or not working. You must keep in mind a couple things. One of them is that this is a college transfer course. This is the same class you would take at Cal Poly or at USC or at Berkeley. Essentially, you are doing university level work, and therefore your writing, your research, your formatting, all of that has to be at that level. You're not doing random Google searches to find information. You're not, finding somebody's blog just randomly and throwing it into your paper as if that's some kind of research. We're showing you the type of research that you will be expected to do throughout your college career, and as part of that, you need to follow through with some of these elements in order to demonstrate you know how that particularly works. Okay. As always, you can always contact me at my email address, englitguy@earthlink.net, and I answer my email every day. And certainly, you can talk to me on Wednesdays between 7 and 9 p.m. and we can flesh things out and clarify things if you have any questions. As usual, you can always stop by my office as well. Usually between 2:30 and 3:30 on Tuesday and Thursday, and between 3 and 4 on Monday and Wednesday. All right. If you have any questions, get a hold of me, and we will we'll get everything going so you can get through this class as cleanly and as successfully as possible. All right. Stay in touch.